everybody? What is going on? This is Stats Over Politics. I am Shaun Holko alongside my guys, Jaevon, Totty, Kevin Dent, our boy Garry Singh. He's handling a family situation right now. We wish him the best. All love to Garry. He'll be back next week. Hopefully, he should. Everything expected. Anyways, guys, episode number 5 of Stats Over Politics. We appreciate you all for tuning in, whether if you're tuned in on Twitter at Stats or Politics or on our new and improved YouTube page, Stats Over Politics. Shout out to my guy, Kev and Jaevon, for getting that looking right. So, how are we doing this week? Jaevon, I'm going to start out with you. How are we doing, my boy?
Feeling good. Had a great Sunday. Great weekend overall. Caleb won the Heisman, as I already said that was going to happen. So, just stats. When you provide stats, hey, man, what can you do?
Kevin, our boy C.J. Stroud didn't win the Heisman, but are you still doing all right?
I'm doing all right. I sat around all day waiting for that announcement to come on ESPN, and I tuned in. I watched all the interviews, man. I was ready to go. He had the fresh red and the 7 chain. I was like,
he had a chain on.
I said, no one else has a chain on. He's coming for the Heisman. And then, unfortunately, it didn't happen. But the best part of my weekend was hearing Caleb Williams say, well, at least you guys are in the college football playoffs. So have fun with that Heisman.
All of them that were there, they're in the college football playoffs. So, yeah.
All of them except for Caleb Williams. But, hey, credit to you, Totty. You got it right.
Didn't you lose some money, Shaun?
Yes, I did, but it was a futures bet, and I made it back in July, so it was almost like money I never even had anymore. I want with the futures bets, you put that money. I have a futures bet on Nick Bosa to win Defensive Player of the Year. That might actually happen.
How much?
However,
put on that?
$5. I wish I put 50 on it. Man, it's like $5 to win like 70 or something like that. So right. We'll see what happens. Anyways. Episode number 5 of Stats Over Politics, and we have a loaded show for you all. We're going longer this week. The people have been telling us that they want more content, so we're here to bring it. So we got our normal topics covering the NFL, covering the NBA. We're going to get into some college football, but let's just start off right with the NFL, gentlemen, as the San Francisco 49ers. Hey, Jaevon, we got a majority now. We got a majority over Kev. The San Francisco 49ers absolutely smashed the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Sunday. Wasn't even close. Brock Purdy. If you know, you know. BCB. Brock Purdy.
Not the nickname.
He showed on Sunday that he truly is BCB. And if you don't know, look it up. So the GOAT got absolutely destroyed. It was his second homecoming to, Santa Clara. He never got a chance to play in Candlestick, but nevertheless, the 49ers, they almost shut out the Bucs, but they got a pity touchdown. It's all good. Vaughn, I want to ask you about this. Did you really expect the 49ers to do that to the Bucs? I think we all kind of figured that the 49ers would beat the Bucs. But did you expect what we ended up seeing?
Well, there were signs, it's kind of like throughout the year that you kind of see little droplets, the Bucs lost to the Steelers, Bucs lose here, they're losing in there, Brady's missing throws, they almost lose to the Panthers. You're kind of just seeing little droplets here and there throughout the season that the Bucs aren't looking too great. And then 49ers, who started 3-4 early in this year, are now 9-4. So they won 6 games in a row. So this defense has been rolling. Obviously, there have been injuries at the quarterback position. Trey Lance goes down week 2, and then in week 13, Jimmy Garoppolo goes down. And then you kind of see Brock Purdy, the guy from Iowa State, kind of just creep out of nowhere. He throws 2 touchdowns, has a pick in his first. Wasn't really a start, but it might have well been a start because he played the majority of the game in that Dolphins game. And you were seeing, kind of some flashes. He was making plays with his legs, improvising a little bit, and you were kind of seeing him make some very good throws. Now going into, this Bucks game, he obviously wasn't, the Niners were still favored, according to a lot of sports books. But on the other side, you have the greatest quarterback of all time. And so you're thinking like, man, is Brady really going to lose to a rookie quarterback? But at the same time, you have to look at it. I said this on our last podcast. It wasn't really a Brady versus Brock Purdy. It was Brady versus the number one defense in the NFL. So you kind of saw that Brady was under a lot of duress in this game, and Brock Purdy kind of just had to get the ball to his playmakers, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, Christian McCaffrey, and Deebo Samuel. So it was kind of just, you had to have a very easy game plan for him. He made a lot of great throws in this game, and the defense did what the defense does, be the number one defense in the league. And so you could say that you could say that I saw this coming, but at the same time, Tom Brady, we weren't expecting Tom Brady to kind of go out like that against a rookie quarterback.
Yeah, the Bucks trailed at halftime 28-0, and that is definitely not something that I expected, and it ended up being a 35-7 final. And my favorite part from this weekend was the fact that Dre Greenlaw got a pick off of Tom Brady, and then he went up to him after the game and said, "You're the greatest of all time. Can you please sign this football that I just intercepted off of you?" And Tom even explained it later on, where he said, "Yeah, he caught me in a good moment. I was being a good sport, because most of the time I'm not a good sport." So credit to Tom for that. Kevin, it's like a throwback this week, where it's taking us back to your appearances on Shaun and Vaughn, where you are outnumbered by the Niner Nation. But as the only unbiased person here, did you expect what we saw on Sunday?
I definitely expected the Niners to win. I didn't expect Tom Brady to throw the ball at the back of DB's heads and just throw bad passes. It just really showed how good the defense is. And like Totty's been saying, on the offense, you guys have all those playmakers, and it just goes to show it doesn't really matter who's that quarterback there. You guys have so many weapons, from Deebo to Kittle to Ayuk, Christian McCaffrey, and the list goes on from there. But there's just so many weapons for him to go to. And it's kind of fucked up to say, but he's really the last concern of the defense when the play breaks down. He has all these weapons on the outside, so everyone's concerned about making Purdy beat you. And with all these weapons, it's not going to be hard. He can give the ball to Deebo on the slant and take it 85 yards. Same with Ayuk. So just the versatility this offense has with the run game. And you can definitely tell the Niners, or not the Niners, the Bucks were expecting them to show the box and say, "I want you to beat us. I want you to pass, and I want you to beat us." And that's exactly what Brock Purdy did. In the post game, he was just talking about the whole game. I grew up watching Tom Brady, and I've seen him come back from less than this. So we had to keep the gas on the brake and just keep going. So I wasn't surprised at all, but definitely a bad showing for Tom Brady and the Buccaneers.
That was definitely the weirdest part of the game for me, was the fact that the commentators, Kevin Burkhardt, Greg Olson, they kept saying, as the Bucks were down 28-0, "Oh, you know who's on the other sideline? You know what he's done in the past."
28-3.
Hey, man, can't forget
we all knew the game was over, but because of the guy that was on the other sideline, it made it kind of a possibility. So that man, the third string, former Mr. Irrelevant, now definitely relevant, Brock Purdy, he finished 16-21 for 185 yards, 2 TDs in this game, had a QB rating of 92.8, and he even got a rushing touchdown in this one. So not a bad performance for Mr. Purdy. And also, I thought it was pretty cool seeing his dad cry tears of joy on the sideline as well. It was pretty cool. And want to give a shout out to one of our loyal listeners, our guy James. He says, "Yo, what's up with the guys? Bang, bang, Niner gang." You already know, James. You already know. So now
that's probably the nicest thing I've ever heard Kevin say about the Niners. Like, ever.
Hey, man, I'm trying to do my thing, man. I'm trying to be an analyst. You feel me? Look at it from a whole perspective. No bias into it. No bias.
Yeah.
And I just want to get to one other YouTube comment that we got from one of our loyal listeners, our guy Manny. Says, "Shout out to Purdy. I need him in my fantasy."
Yeah, and apparently, Brock Purdy was like available on waivers. I'm not really in the fantasy world, so Shaun could probably explain this a little bit more than me. I guess Brock Purdy was kind of just chilling there. Like you could just pick him up in fantasy and just say, "Hey, you're going to be my starting quarterback for the week." And what do you know? He counts for 3 touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown, and he throws for 2. So
Purdy had like 25 fantasy points at halftime. And for people who don't play fantasy like Totty, That's a lot. That is like a whole game score that he had at halftime. So shout out to Brock Purdy. So guys, we talk about the semi-local team, the team that's based in Las Vegas, and we have continued to talk about them despite them not having a great year because they were on a win streak. And we thought that the win streak was going to continue this past weekend, or not even weekend, this past Thursday. But the Raiders fumbled the bag and they proceeded to lose to the LA Rams, led by Baker Mayfield, who had been there for about 36 hours. So I just want to give a quick backstory on this game. I was watching the game. I even signed up for Prime just so I could watch the game. I know I'm not even looking at any stream, but anyway, so I didn't really care about the game, but I was watching it, and then I ended up falling asleep, and I think the Raiders were up like 13-3. There was like 4 minutes left, something like that. And then I wake up like an hour later and I see Baker Mayfield on the post-game show being interviewed. And I'm just like, how was Baker Mayfield up there when they lost? And then I looked at my phone and I saw all the text messages from you guys in our group chat. And I was just like, are you serious? The Raiders lost to the Rams after controlling that entire game. And Jaevon, what's the phrase that we always say about the team from Las Vegas?
Please just tell her the Raiders are gonna Raider.
The Raiders they're gonna Raider, and they eventually Raidered in this one as they ended up losing to the Rams, led by Baker Mayfield, 17-16. So I have the little ticker saying the Raiders fumbled the bag, but in your opinion, Kevin, do you think that the Raiders actually did fumble the bag, or did they just lose to the better team?
Fumbled the bag, man, 100%. Derek Carr went out there and threw two horrible picks. And it really sucks because I know a lot of Raider fans, and my brother's a Raider guy, so he's always talking to me about it. And to see what the offense does and to see the centerpiece be the quarterback play so bad really makes you think, is he going to be here next year? Next year is the first year they can get out of his contract and not eat too much cap. But you got to kind of take into the bag. If you let go of Derek Carr, what's going to happen to Devontae Adams? And he made it public that he was coming here because they play together at Fresno State. So just all that alone, you have Josh Jacobs who's killing it week after week after week, and they didn't even take his fifth-year option, so they're going to have to give him the bag. Devontae Adams is finally coming to life. Granted, this offense has a lot of injuries. Darren Waller, Hunter Renfrow. The O-line. They've been letting go of players just on a random Tuesday. So the Raiders have a lot more going on than just football. But yeah, man, they definitely fumbled the bag. There's no way you should let a quarterback who hasn't even learned the playbook come in there and beat you. And on the very last play for them to go press coverage against Van Jefferson, you kind of got to ask McDaniels what he was doing there. Is this what you wanted to do, or what are you doing here? So they definitely fumbled the bag, 100%.
Yeah, I don't think that the Raiders organization has been watching Hard Knocks. Otherwise, they would have been educated on Van Jefferson and his family lineage, the fact that his dad is the wide receiver coach for the Arizona Cardinals. So, Jaevon, I mean, we always joke like Raiders gonna Raider, but now they're 5-8. They could have been 6-7, like 6-7. They would have been on their way to getting one of those wild card spots, exactly. And so. I said that the Raiders season was over with that loss. Like, it's a wrap. Season's over now. In your opinion, Jaevon, do you truly think that the Raiders season is over, or do they still have a chance to sneak into the playoffs?
Well, as I stated on, the previous podcast, the Raiders are kind of just a little bit too little too late. So you're kind of you're back scrambling. You're already, trying to catch back up into just forget the wild card race, the division. I mean, they don't win games in the division except the Broncos. So their division was kind of going to see where they would stack up just in the AFC period. And, we kind of already said, it comes down to that Raider defense. We know that they have Devontae Adams, Josh Jacobs. Derek Carr was playing at a pretty high level. But that defense kind of just gave up at the end. The secondary, Their secondary is trash. So
Garbage.
they're
Absolute garbage.
They made Baker Mayfield look like Joe Montana, fresh off. Baker went to LA before he was even claimed by the Rams.
Do you believe that story?
I think it's possible, just because you think at the situation, they're starting Walford, they're starting a third-string quarterback. Matthew Stafford's probably out. Baker wanted to go to LA. So Baker gets into the facility. We have no idea if he's going to play because, he has to learn the playbook. It's pretty complex. But I heard that the terminology between the offenses of Kevin Stefanski when he was in Cleveland and in the in LA with Sean McVay, they had the same type of terminology. So all of the lingo, the calls and the hand signals are kind of similar. So that's why it was a little bit easier for him to catch on. Baker's a smart guy. So, when Baker kind of came in with a decent O-line and he had time to throw, he looked pretty solid. And, the Raiders kind of just ended up Raidering. We were seeing this kind of earlier in the year when they were just losing games to Jacksonville, blowing leads to Arizona. Like, it's kind of, the writing's on the wall's kind of been there, but they kind of fooled everybody these past couple of weeks. Like, hey, we're still kind of in it. Don't count us out. Josh Jacobs they had 2 walk-off touchdowns in overtime. Josh Jacobs ran for like 200 yards. So you're they'll show you flashes of, hey, we're still a good team. But at the end of the day, it kind of just comes down to the defense just isn't good enough. Derek Carr played very poorly, like Kevin already alluded to, throwing those 2 horrid interceptions. He didn't even throw any. He threw for 137 yards and no touchdowns. That's not something that you pay give $150 million extension to. And you're going out and playing like that, where a guy who's only been in the building for not even 3 days, he outplays you and throws 2 touchdown passes, 1 to win the game and 1 late. So those touchdowns, they came late in the game. So I turned the game off when it was 16-3, and then all of a sudden you just hear, I'm just seeing tweets, oh my God, Baker this, Baker that. I'm like, what did Baker do? Did he throw? What happened? And then yeah, the Rams won. So it was pretty insane.
Yeah, just like Manny said, like, it was a huge disappointment, the fact that Davante Adams, he had 3 receptions for 71 yards in this game. Like, you were supposed to be, by the way. That's a whole nother discussion. But like, not only the fact that he only had 3 receptions, but like, he had 7 targets. If I'm Derek Carr, I am looking at him on every single play, and I'm sure he does. Yeah, but I'll throw it up. I'll throw it up to him. Like, just give him a chance. Just like Kyler Murray always does with DeAndre Hopkins, or Kirk Cousins does with Justin Jefferson. Like that play that Kirk Cousins had where he threw it up to Justin Jefferson, and Justin Jefferson made that crazy catch in Buffalo. It's because he just threw him a jump pass. And, you're not going to win the game if Davante Adams is only having 3 receptions for 71 yards. And they just didn't give Adams the ball enough. And I think Manny really hit the nail on the head with that in our YouTube comments.
He had that great one-handed catch against Jalen Ramsey very early in the game. So
my gosh.
I thought after that he was going to go for 8 for
50, man.
Yeah, so it was just, the Raiders are going to Raider. They'll figure out a way.
So, I mean, we probably won't talk about the Raiders too much more unless the people ask for it going forward in the next coming weeks, just because, I mean, the Raiders are out of it in all of our opinions. So I just want to summarize this Raiders season for everyone real quick. So the Raiders' losses this year are as follows. They led 24-19 to the Chargers, lost. They led 23-7 in the fourth quarter against the Cardinals. They lost. They were up 24-22 against the Titans. They lost. They were up 20-10 in the first half over the Chiefs. Lost. Shut out by the Saints. Didn't even get past the 50-yard line until the fourth quarter. They led 17-0 in the first half against the Jacksonville Jaguars, one of those losses that you talked about, Jaevon. They lost to Jeff Saturday in his coaching debut.
These are bad losses.
And then they were up 16-3 in the fourth quarter against the Rams and a quarterback who had just joined the team 2 days prior. I mean, Raiders gonna Raider. That's the best way to sum it up. Maybe that's what I should have had. That the ticker should have said Raiders gonna Raider, because that's really the best way to sum things up. You guys are tuned in to Stats Over Politics here on YouTube, on Twitter, and if you're listening on audio on Spotify, Apple, make sure to give us a review. We would really appreciate it, and it would really help us out as well. All right, gentlemen, before we move on from the NFL, I just want to get to some timely takes. We're gonna give our thoughts in a minute, 2 minutes on a couple of teams. And Kevin, I'm going to start off with you because we got our guy Julian in the comments saying 2 more weeks till we destroy Fly Eagles Fly. I would assume by we, he means the Dallas Cowboys. So, Kevin, let's have you talk about the Eagles win from this past week.
Don't get him started.
It was a big one.
Kevin.
I won't do him in. But it was just a simple differentiation of one team that's really dominant and one team that's not. We did it on both sides of the ball. On our opening defensive drive, coming in with 2 huge sacks, really set the tone for the game. Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley did nothing the whole game. And I want to sincerely apologize to anyone that had a Giants player in their starting lineup in fantasy, because I know it didn't go well. Yeah. Miles Sanders is an absolute monster, rushing for 144 yards, 2
Miles
touchdowns.
Sanders for the rushing title?
8.5 yards a carry. Oh my goodness. Six sacks as a defense.
Hey, and always take Miles Sanders to score a touchdown. You'll win a lot of money.
Him and Jalen, always. Every week. But that first drive, Jalen Hurts really went out there and showed that he can ball. 6 different passes, or he completed 6 passes to 6 different receivers. Coming up on third down, we had 2 huge third downs and a huge fourth down, converted them all. 2 third downs, we had the blitz. Jalen makes a throw that last year you would say Jalen couldn't make, and he's showing the improvement. He's making those throws. 4th down, he goes up 1-on-1. Yes, I know Julian Love for the Giants made a bonehead play, but hey, we can't make them do anything about that. But the one negative from the game is Reed Blankenship going down with the MCL sprain. He's expected not to go on IR, so that's huge for us. We just signed Anthony Harris, who played on the team last year. I'm not too much of a fan. But this Eagles team is looking scary. We made history. A.J. Brown had 1,000 yards for the first time since 2014. And you guys could even guess who the receiver was.
Who?
Jeremy Maclin.
Maclin.
Miles.
Okay, see, I was going to go with the other one. I was going to go with Deshaun
Jackson. That's what I would have thought. And then Miles Sanders running for 1,000 yards, first time since 2014, since LaShawn McCoy. So
Kevin Cobb? Was that Kevin Cobb or Mike Vick's team?
McCoy?
Who was the quarterback?
Or Maclin?
Who was the quarterback?
2014.
I think that was the Nick Foles experience.
No, I think that would have been Chip.
Yeah, but I'm saying the quarterback was it Kevin Cobb?
I think it would have been Vic. I think it would have been Vic.
Probably.
Okay.
But yeah, so just this defense is really showing up for us when we needed to. Yes, the Giants, everyone's going to say they're not good, but when you hit the playoff standings in the NFC, they're there. So that's all I got to say about that game. And we're really not worried about the Cowgirls.
So the Eagles win 48-22 at
Nick Foles was the
against the Giants.
2014.
Got it. I knew it was the Foles experience. I knew it.
Foles was quarterback.
So
Chip Kelly
not
was
only
the coach,
there you go, Chip Kelly and Nick Foles experience. What a time. So not only did the Eagles more than double up their rivals on their rivals' home field, but now the Eagles are 12-1, and the MVP discussion for Jalen Hurts, it's heating up. So, Totty, we already talked about our team. So I want to hear your thoughts on the Lions, because the Lions came into their game this past weekend against the Vikings as favorites.
Oh boy.
They were on their home field, but they came in as favorites against a team that was 10-2, and they were 5-7 coming in. But the Lions, they're rolling. So what are your thoughts on the Detroit Lions?
Well, the last time that I saw the Vikings were dogs in a home game, well, they were the home team against the Dallas Cowboys, and the Cowboys absolutely eviscerated them. And then when I saw that the Lions early in the week, that the Lions were favorites, I was like, maybe this line will probably change by Sunday. Didn't budge, not one bit. The Lions, Jared Goff is like sneaky in that little like top. I think he's like top 5 or 6 in passing yards. So this offense is humming. You have Jamal Williams, who's a touchdown machine, kind of just scores whenever they get into the goal line. He just has a nose for the end zone this year. I think he leads the league in touchdown score, period. You have Amon-Ra St. Brown, a guy who is a USC guy, by the way. He's been kind of on my radar this last year, and then kind of this past year, I feel like he's taking the leap as one of the elite slot receivers. And I don't think too many people are talking too much about him, but he's been going pretty crazy. And then when you have a guy like Hutchinson, their number one pick, kind of just, having a nose for the quarterback, and I think he recorded 3 sacks in this final game. So when you have guys like that, and you have a Dan Campbell who's talking about ripping people's kneecaps off, and guys just they love to play for him, and he's cried multiple times at the podium. We saw in Hard Knocks Jamal Williams crying to the team, telling them that they're trying to change the culture of this team. So I feel like it's starting to rub off on this team a little bit, and the Lions are kind of a scary team, sneaky team that could perhaps sneak into the back end of the playoffs. If the Giants kind of just fall off, we kind of already saw that the Commanders are taking that wild card spot after they lost this past weekend. And if the Commanders are able to kind of keep step, watch out for the Lions. On the other hand, the Vikings, what a fraud that they are. I mean, they're 10-3.
Kirk no chains.
Kirk Cousins, when he gets into these tight spots, he doesn't really show up. If you're supposed to be a Super Bowl contending team, you beat teams like the Lions, unfortunately. It just sucks to see a guy like Justin Jefferson who goes for 220 yards, and he had no touchdowns in this game, and they lose. If you would have told me that Justin Jefferson has 220 yards receiving and the Lions still win, something's not right, man.
I think the best stat, because this is stats over politics, the best stat that I could mention to truly represent the fact that the Lions are actually good. Like, I think the Lions are good. I think that they are a fringe playoff team, and they're rolling right now. Like, Dan Campbell had them all believing when they were perennial losers, and now they're actually winning. That's dangerous. But the stat that stands out the most to me is point differential, because point differential is the real stat that shows, okay, your team may be 6-7, but you lost those 7 losses. You lost by 2 points. You lost by 3 points. In your wins, you won by 20 or whatever. And so if you look at the NFC, there are 5 teams with a positive point differential. Kevin, I'm going to throw this to you. This isn't in Shauns Pop Quiz, but I'm going to throw this to you. Can you guess the 5 teams? And Totty, you can pick it up after him, but I'm going to put Kevin on the spot. Can you guess the 5 teams in the NFC who have a positive point differential, meaning they've scored more points than their opponents in total so far this season?
Perfect. So it got to be the Lions 1. In no order. I don't know the order, but I know the Lions are 1. Eagles are 1. I want to say the Ravens.
NFC.
Oh, NFC. Oh, NFC. Niners. I would say Niners. It got to be the Niners.
Totty, feel free to chip in.
Seattle.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Seattle in there.
Yeah, that's 4 out of 5.
Is there a crazy stat? Is it the Panthers? Tell me it's not the Panthers. Okay.
No.
Is it the
Panthers?
It can't be the Falcons.
No, it's not the Falcons either.
Who's that?
The Panthers and the Falcons are close though, but they're still in the negatives.
Oh shit, the Bucks.
No, it's not the Bucks either. The Bucks are a minus 30.
It's not the Cowboys.
It's the Cowgirls. It's the Cowgirls.
Yeah, I would have never guessed them anyways.
So the Eagles are at the top as a plus 138, followed by the Cowboys, who are a plus 131. Niners are a plus 120. So Eagles, Cowboys, Niners are in a class of their own. And then you have the Seahawks, who are a plus 8, and the Detroit Lions at 6-7 are a plus 2. So, I think that kind of says everything. And also just showing some love to our YouTube comments. Our boy Marcellus had to give his weekly message announcing his arrival. He said, "I made it." We appreciate you, Marcellus. And Marcellus said that the Lions ruined parlays, apparently.
I told him not to take the Vikings.
Lions to the playoffs, baby. Lions to the playoffs.
And you never know. When the Lions are at Ford Field, Manny says they're dangerous, so don't let them get a home playoff game. But
I don't know about that.
Is it possible? Is it possible for them to get a home playoff game? They're 6-7.
They have to win out, and the Vikings
have to win their division.
Okay, so yeah, that ain't happening. That ain't happening. All right, so go ahead, Kevin.
I'll just say the Lions' last 4 games: Jets, Panthers, Bears, and Packers.
Hey, now
they have a chance, especially.
Are they home?
I don't know who's home, but I know they play the Panthers, who are up and down. The Bears at 3-10 now. They could be sitting Justin, so he could be going against Trey Simeon, and then Packers. It could be the Jordan Love show. So the Lions might fuck around and get in there.
I'm rooting for him. I'm rooting for him for sure. So the last timely take for the week, and I'm gonna step in for our boy Garry, who's out with a family emergency this week.
He's gonna
let's talk your shit.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Cardinals because man, Kyler Murray, God bless you, Kyler Murray. Heal up, bro. He tore his ACL last night.
That was on the first play of the game. Had the Cardinals on my parlay, ruined me.
Oh man! Well, if it makes you feel better, Totty, I had Kyler Murray starting for me on one of my fantasy teams that I needed to win to get into the playoffs.
Oh,
that one hurt big time, especially because I didn't even see the play. I didn't even see the play because I was still at work. But anyways, I don't know if I want to do this, but I'm going to do this. The Arizona Cardinals, they are frauds. They came into this season having expectations sky high. All 4 teams, or at least 3 teams in the NFC West, had a legitimate shot to make the playoffs this season. And the Cardinals continued to disappoint time after time after time. And now we get to see them on Hard Knocks, and now we get to see the aftermath of Kyler Murray's injury. I hate talking about this after Kyler Murray's injury, but Cliff Kingsbury is probably the biggest fraud that I have ever seen in my entire life. He coached Patrick Mahomes, and that got him an NFL job. Just because he coached Patrick Mahomes. He got fired from that college job, but hey, he coached Patrick Mahomes. He must have had something to do with him. Cliff Kingsbury is an example of white privilege, because do you think that any other coach would have gotten this job based on the resume that he has? Like, he just walked into the NFL. And yet, despite him being mediocre basically the entire time that he has been an NFL coach, he still somehow has a job. If Cliff Kingsbury comes back next season, I'm betting the house on the Cardinals missing the playoffs. That's my take on that, because I think Cliff Kingsbury is the biggest fraud.
Is it time to blow it up, Shaun, for the Cardinals? Is it just done? I mean, I think you got talent there. You still have a Hopkins. You got Hollywood Brown, James Conner. I think they have a solid defense. J.J. Watt, I like Isaiah Simmons, Budda Baker. Maybe it's just the coach.
It's the Hard Knock curse, bro. Get him off Hard Knocks.
Yeah, I mean, they weren't playing good before, so it didn't help that they were on Hard Knocks. But I think, don't bet money on the Cardinals.
I got a hot take for you guys.
Go ahead, let me hear it.
Jimmy G to Arizona.
I like it.
Kyler's gonna be out probably a lot of next year.
Jimmy G's gonna go to the Jets.
Kyler Murray, you still got a contract offer from the Oakland Athletics. No one else is there. I mean, he signed it. He signed it because he got drafted to the A's first before he got drafted to the NFL. And so he did sign it. He got a signing bonus. But, I mean, Kyler Murray, I mean, baseball is always there. I mean, last night I watched an E60 about the day that Dion played in the NFL and he suited up to play baseball on the same day. Crazy. Kyler Murray, anything is possible.
I think.
All right, guys.
A lot of Call of Duty in his future. Next 8-9 months.
Yeah, without a doubt. So you guys are tuned in to Stats Over Politics. This is episode number 5. If you're on YouTube, make sure to give us a like and a thumbs up. Subscribe. We would really appreciate it. And that way, we're going live every single Tuesday night at 8:30. And you got to make sure to tap in. So tap in with us on YouTube, on Twitter. That's where the live streams are at. And now you can find our podcast wherever you get your podcast. Apple, Spotify, Google, all them things. Find us.
All
right, guys.
Everywhere, baby.
Everywhere. All right.
Well,
So
like the
now let's triple demic. So now let's get to some college football, gentlemen. And
let me go ahead and sit back.
This is when I'm gonna just fade out real quick. I was
Come on now.
I was gonna be dramatic like last week, and I was gonna leave the room just for a second, but then I realized that there wouldn't be a host, so I can't do that. But anyways, there you go. But so Jaevon, you were right. Congratulations. And I will just say, I didn't follow up on this, but last week, Jaevon, you called me out for not giving a reason as to why I think CJ Stroud will win the Heisman.
Didn't even say
and
why.
it is 1,000% valid. It is 1,000% valid because
he's a Buckeye. That's why.
He's a winner.
He's a winner.
I honestly didn't think he was gonna win it because I just felt like Caleb was gonna run away with it. But I had to front. And so now I will admit I always did think Caleb was gonna win it. I didn't feel confident in my CJ pick anymore, especially after the game. But anyways, Totty, you were right. Caleb Williams wins the Heisman. So Toddy, I'm gonna just give you the floor. You got.
The kid's 20 years old. He's 20. If he were draft eligible right now, he'd be going number one into this year's draft. That includes CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, Will Levis. Like, who is that guy? But Caleb Williams would go in front of all of those guys. And I saw him. He was talking. I think somebody was interviewing him. They asked him about Patrick Mahomes, and they were like, "How do you kind of see yourself?" To him, he was like, "Hey, man, he's a guy, he's a great player, but I don't see a play that he can make that I can't." And I kind of was thinking about it. Caleb Williams is a little bit more athletic than Mahomes, I would say, a little bit more explosive, electric. Arm talent, I would say Mahomes has him there. But I see a lot of similarities kind of in their games. If you kind of watch them play, I was just rolling back the tape for college and saw the similarities of both of their games. I think Caleb has a lot of he has great arm talent, in my opinion. Just the way that he's able to just make plays off script, being able to just extend a lot of plays. Like when there's nothing there, he'll sit back there in the pocket, he'll spin around, and he'll throw the ball down 25 yards. Who's the guy that we see do that in the NFL? Patrick Mahomes. Okay. He's another guy too. But I think Caleb Williams, this is just the beginning for him. I think next year, with help in the transfer portal and signing day, I think USC will be able to kind of, help build that defense up a little bit and kind of get Caleb a little bit of help. I think that I don't know if the playoffs extends to 12 next year or it might be the year after. So I think Caleb Williams is the best player in football at this point. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. We couldn't be Utah. We fucking painted on his nails
twice.
Twice. Yeah. The second time it was all bad. He was playing a little bit hurt, but he put up the numbers. I think that Caleb Williams is just a guy that he's a once in a lifetime talent. I think, and I think he's kind of a guy that you can't miss out on. And he's a guy that's going to be able to change your franchise within the incoming years. And I think he's going to be the number one pick, obviously, in his draft. But obviously, he did say in his press conference, Kevin talked about in the beginning of the show, he was like, "Yeah, I might be standing up here today, but you guys are in the college football playoffs. So
have fun in the toilet bowl."
Yeah, we're playing in the Cotton Bowl, so it's
Cotton, my bad. Easily confused.
It's whatever. So I mean, yeah. Caleb Williams, number one player in the country, just period. I think he'd be the number one player in this draft if he were coming out this year.
But he just couldn't beat Utah.
Couldn't beat Utah.
No.
And then
Kevin, I don't have anything else to say about Caleb Williams winning the Heisman. Do you?
No, not at all. Next topic.
All right, now let's move it on here on Staff Over Politics. Guys, we gotta tone back the smiles a little bit because we did get some bad news today out of the college football world, and that was the fact that Mike Leach passed away at 61 years old, far too young. Hell of a character Mike Leach was, known for his post-game, halftime interviews. He was given advice. I saw a clip today where he was given advice to a reporter saying, "Go elope." It was, and then there was a clip that ESPN put out, and they did it so perfectly because Jeremy Schaap, one of their reporters, he had asked Mike Leach a couple years ago. He was like, "What should the person writing your obituary put in it?" and then he said, "I don't care. I'm dead. It doesn't matter to me anyways." And that's how they ended up ending the video honoring Mike Leach. So, Kevin, I'm gonna toss it to you first. I'm not sure how well you knew of Mike Leach. I mean, but just what were your thoughts on the legend Mike Leach?
Yeah, man, legend to say the least. I really didn't know much about Mike Leach, but I listened to First Take every morning, and they were really enlightening me, saying that he was the one who really inherited the air game. So he's the reason why quarterbacks are throwing 50 attempts a game. You know, he's the one who started it, and just you can see how it's affecting. That's what the modern day NFL is. From when we were kids and our parents used to watch football, it was nothing but hand the ball off 50 times, and now it's West Coast offense. Let's spread it out and let's air it out. So, I mean, definitely a man that's going to be missed. He did a lot of great things from every stop that he's been at. And, you know, I just send out prayers to his friends and family, man.
Mike Leach had stops at Texas Tech, at Washington State, and then his final stop at Mississippi State as well. So, Jaevon, what were your thoughts on the late, great Mike Leach?
Yeah, you know, Kev's kind of alluded to it already. Mike Leach is kind of the reason why they have, you know, the air raid offense. Even NFL teams are adopting that same style of offense. You kind of see it all around college football now. Caught a couple of games with Mississippi State. They're a team that's going to go for it on 4th and 7, 4th and 5, at midfield, even at the goal line. Like, he was a very aggressive coach. Even the character that you saw from Mike Leach, I saw interview. He was interviewing a female reporter. Was interviewing him, I think, going into halftime or coming out of halftime, one of the two. And he was asking her about, you know, saying that she was getting married. Where should they go? The guy doesn't know like where they're gonna go. And he's like, well,
shout out to Trevor.
And he was like, well, you gotta do it like this. And he was like, well, give me his number and we'll talk about it. I just thought that was so hilarious. So the character that you see from him, he was just a great guy off the field. It wasn't always about football at times, but you kind of saw that he is also human too. And then I saw another stat or kind of like cool little nugget. He made a fake like play sheet when they played against Texas. And I was like, this is when he was an assistant at Oklahoma. I was like, who in their right mind would make a whole fake play sheet of just plays? Like, that's just thinking outside of the box. Like, I wouldn't even think of something like that. So it's just the cleverness, and, you know, that's why a lot of people kind of took from him, because they knew that the stuff that he does would work. And obviously you see now in today's NFL, today's just football, period, across high school, college, NFL, that same style is mimicked, and it works for a lot of people. So rest in peace to Mike Leach. He was a legendary coach for sure.
Rest in peace to Mike Leach. So, guys, before we move on from college football completely, we do have a bit of local news, and Totty knows this news is close to my heart as well, not only because I am a Sac State alum, Stingers
Hornet
up.
Boy.
Hornet Boy, yeah, apparently Hornet Boy. So, the news is the fact that Troy Taylor decided to leave the Sacramento State football program and become the head coach for the Stanford Cardinal.
That's crazy.
And I tuned into Coach Troy Taylor's press conference yesterday, and he said that he wants Stanford to be the last stop in his coaching life. So I hope that Troy Taylor is there for a very long time. I'll save my thoughts about Troy Taylor to the end, but I just want to get your guys' thoughts. Totty, What kind of an impact because it's well noted, you're a USC fan. Now you got Troy Taylor coming back to the Pac-12, used to be at Utah, that team that just keeps on beating up on the Trojans. But now he's back in the Pac-12 as a head coach at Stanford. So what kind of impact do you think Troy Taylor will make at Stanford?
Well, obviously by turning around Sac State, they go undefeated this year. I caught a little bit of their playoff game that they just had. It was all offense. So
63-66.
Yeah, there was no type of defense. Everybody on defense should have run gassers the next week. I don't care if the season's over or not. You got to take your pads off and we're running the whole entire field after the game's over. But, what he did at Sac State was very, it was legendary. They did a lot of stuff, overcame a lot. I also saw that what's the running back's name? Number 4? I forget his name.
Cameron Scattaboo from Rio Linda High School.
So I saw that he's going into the transfer portal. Is he
going
to Stanford? Like, is he going to be the next back at Stanford? That'd be crazy.
The next Toby Gerhart, the next great white running back at Stanford.
I mean, Christian McCaffrey is also another guy that was there too, but I don't think he's gonna be McCaffrey. But
I think, I didn't. I love Scattaboo, but Scattaboo's a bruiser who reminds me of Gerhart, and I didn't even want to mention him in the same conversation as Christian because Christian is just like in a different universe.
He was in the Heisman. He was one of those type of guys. So but at the same time, I think this is a great opportunity for Coach Troy Taylor. And I think that he'll probably be able to make some things shake at Stanford. Obviously, you saw the legendary coach step down this past year. And now he needs somebody else to kind of take the reins over. So I think Troy Taylor is kind of hand in hand now. So congratulations to him.
And just getting to some other Sac State alumni, our guy Manny, who played on the Sac State football team for Troy Taylor, he said it's a love-hurt relationship with Troy leaving, and I definitely agree with that. Kevin, what do you think about Troy Taylor and not only him going to Stanford, but also the impact that he had on Sac State?
The impact he had on Sac State will forever be remembered. Since as long as I could remember, Sac State football has never been good. And like you said, Manny played there, so I would go to a lot of games. And from the kickoff to the second quarter, all we're talking about is what we're doing afterwards. So I mean, the impact is going to be forever memorized. Like Totty said, undefeated season, I believe 3 straight conference tournament or league champions. They burned out in the playoffs, but just to show that a small school team that you think isn't going to be able to do something, you get the right coaching, you get the right staff, and you get the players to buy in. I think it really just shows the blueprint for Sac State on their next coaching spot. You can have a guy come in, and he came in from the Folsom level, and you saw what he did at Folsom. So you just got to get the guys to buy in, and you can go a long way with it. So I definitely think the Sac State's going to bounce back, but it's definitely going to be hard to see him be so close, but yet so far.
Yeah, this is I'm just like Manny, where this is like a love-hate thing for me because like not only am I a Sac State alum, like I rep Ohio State, I rep Stanford, but like Sac State is my one and only school like that I actually went to, obviously. But I've been a Stanford fan since the days of Andrew Luck and Toby Gerhart there. And I became a Stanford fan way back when, and Toddy knows it because of Andrew Luck in the time that he had at Stanford. So as a Stanford football fan, I am so excited for Troy Taylor. Like David Shaw steps down, and then you get what could potentially be an upgrade in Troy Taylor. Like, no disrespect to David Shaw, but after watching what Troy Taylor just did for the Sac State football program, like when I got to Sac State, the football program, like no offense, Manny, but like, the Sac State football program was not good. It was not good for a long time. I think my freshman year, they went 1-9. And I happened to go to, I went to one game that year, and it happened to be the only game that they won. Exactly. and so the Sac State football program, it was just, they were perennial losers until Troy Taylor got there. And he shows up, he takes over for Jody Sears, and he instantly turns around the program. And like you said, Kevin, they win 3 straight. I'm sorry.
Bro,
for our audio listeners, Manny let us know. He said, "No, bro, we were trash." And so, I mean, he knows what it was. And so, anyways, I mean, Sac State football program, it wasn't good. And that's just putting it kindly. And so Troy Taylor came, and then he ended up bringing in his own coaching staff, a lot of guys from Folsom, including Chris Richardson, and he just turned it into winners. And now when you think of Sac State football, you think of winners and you think of tradition. And that was all started by Troy Taylor. And now Sac State is a national power in the FCS. I mean, they got to win. I mean, I'm glad that they won a playoff game this year, because that was kind of the bugaboo about Troy Taylor for his first 2 years. Is it's like, yeah, they won the conference championship. They got to the playoffs. They hosted a playoff game, but they got bounced in their first game in the playoffs. But they actually won a playoff game this year, and they almost won a second. And so I think Troy Taylor did about all he could at Sac State. I don't know if they ever would have won a national championship, because both of those teams in the Dakotas, North Dakota State, South Dakota State, they are powers, and they have been for years. But I just want to say thank you to Troy Taylor, because not only as a Sac State alum, but someone who covered the program when I was on the State Hornet, and I had a brief time as the football beat writer before I became the sports editor in fall 2019. And that was Troy Taylor's first season. I had low expectations. I just wanted the team to have a winning record. And then they went on to win 3 straight conference championships, and they went undefeated this year until they got to the quarterfinals of the FCS playoffs. So, you know, this is we talk stats over politics. This is the stat of the night for everyone. In 4 years, Manny won 13 games as a Sac State football player. They won 12 games alone this year, and that is just a testament to the impact of Troy Taylor. And also, Marcellus, he brings up a good point. Chris Richardson, he still is going to be at Sac State. As Marcellus says, Coach Richardson gave Troy the blueprint. I don't know if he necessarily gave him the blueprint, but they collaborated on it together. And I'm happy to see at least Chris Richardson is going to be staying as well. So, guys, this is the moment that you all hate every week, but it's my favorite time of the week. And you know what it is. Come on, guys. Say it with me. It's time for Shauns Pop Quiz. I appreciate you, Jaevon. Hey, I guess we can tell who's at the top of the leaderboard for Shauns Pop Quiz. It was the guy who participated. So I appreciate you. So we're gonna start things off with Kevin.
Let's do it.
Kevin, I want to know, because I mean, we were talking about Troy Taylor, we're talking about Sac State. So this week's edition of Shauns Pop Quiz is based on the Sac State football program.
Let's do it.
So, I mean, Kevin, I know Manny's your guy, so let's see how locked in you were.
No looking.
I want to know how many Big Sky titles has the Sac State football program won overall?
6.
Appreciate it, Jaevon. 6?
Yep.
All right, so wrong. The total number that Sac State has won in Big Sky titles is 3. They did not
Bro,
win.
I was thinking that.
They
too.
did not win a conference championship until Troy Taylor came to
I was
campus.
like, there's no way, bro. They had to have won something. That's why I said
No,
6.
they did not win a single Big Sky conference title until Troy Taylor came to campus. So for that, we appreciate you, Troy Taylor. So, Kevin, I thought I gave you a softball. Manny, he knew it was 3,
Of course,
but of course Manny knew. All right, so now, Jaevon, I'm throwing it to you. This one is tough unless you've been paying attention today. So, Troy Taylor is the new head football coach at Stanford. Who's the Sac State head football coach? Because he was named today.
It was that one dude, old boy over there.
Oh boy,
coaching them. That's
so this is a tough one. So Jaevon, you may not be well versed on the Sac State coaching staff, but I will say that they elevated a
Coach
prominent
Richardson.
assistant. Oh, so close.
Kevin can steal.
Did you just look it up? Did you pull a Garry?
Steal.
I caught it on Twitter, but I only know a first name. So, 1 point for that or no?
No.
Okay.
But what's his first name?
I know his first name was Andy. They were talking about
Andy Thompson.
Coach Thompson.
The guy whose defense gave up 66 points in a playoff game is now the head coach. But hey, no, I'm not trying to throw shade at Coach Andy Thompson because he had that defense like cooking all year long, and that defense was really good. Incarnate Word, they're just a really good team, and Incarnate Word are one of the most potent offenses in the FCS. They're from Texas, San Antonio. I actually had to look that up because I had no idea where they were from either. So because our guy Garry is out this week dealing with a family situation,
bonus time.
I'm gonna serve up his question as a bonus question. But this one's a little difficult, and I'll be impressed if anyone in the comments ends up getting this one. But I want to know, what high school did Troy Taylor attend? And the hint is it was somewhere in the Sacramento region.
Del Campo.
Okay. Jaevon says Del Campo. And by the way, Manny brought up a great point that Incarnate Word, they averaged 52 points a game. So giving up 66, that's kind of normal. But anyways, so Jaevon went with Del Campo. Okay. And Kevin, you going to guess, think about the local high schools in the area. You got 5 seconds.
So I'm going to say Laguna Creek High School.
Wow.
Nope. You both were wrong. He was a Lancer, a Cordova Lancer.
No way. He went to Cordova.
It's funny
Troy Taylor graduated from Cordova High School in 1986 before he went to Cal Berkeley, and then he got drafted by the New York Jets. Marcellus knew it. He went to Dova.
Wow.
Manny knew it. Cordova with a question mark. That should be a Cordova with an exclamation point because, Manny, you nailed it. Man, I got to start keeping count of – because, I mean, Manny and Marcellus, they're tuning in every week. We got to start keeping score of what Manny and Marcellus are getting.
That's great.
I know. Marcellus, I'm disappointed in Totty.
Damn, Todd.
I had no idea. No idea.
Todd didn't know. But, well, Garry will be happy to hear that neither of you picked up any points this week from Shauns Pop Quiz. But, I mean, to be honest, that one was pretty tough. So, I mean – got to give you guys your kudos for being good sports with it. I appreciate you guys. All right. So you guys are tuned into episode number 5 of Stats Over Politics. If you're listening on audio, make sure to give us a review. And we would really appreciate it if you gave us those 5 stars, whether it's on Apple, Spotify. I noticed on Spotify that they don't let you give a rating unless you've listened to like 5 episodes of the podcast. Like you try to give it a rating and then they're like, it looks like you haven't actually listened to this podcast. You tune into a couple episodes and then give it a rating. I'm like, damn, Spotify. I'm just trying to give myself 5 stars. Shit. Anyways, now, guys, let's move on to the association, and that is the NBA. And let's get to some Kings here because the Kings have played 4 road games in the last week since we last all spoke on this live platform. And we had some predictions. I believe our guy Kev said 4-0. Totty said 2-2, just like me. And the Kings, they went 1-3. They lost to the Milwaukee Bucks. They competed, but they lost to the Milwaukee Bucks. Then they beat the Cleveland Cavaliers without Donovan Mitchell. The Kings were without De'Aaron Fox in that one. Then the Kings just probably had their worst game of the season. At MSG against the New York Knicks. And then tonight, I mean, to be fair, it was the Sixers, but it might have been an even worse performance tonight against the 76ers in Philadelphia. So, Kevin, I'm going to throw it to you first as our optimistic analyst here, giving us that 4-0. Since you said they were going to go 4-0, I just want to ask, what went wrong?
So if you would have told me beforehand that De'Aaron Fox was going to miss a couple games, I would have had a whole different prediction. But just real close games, and you know we're losing these close games, but I love to see us fight. Even though we did take a lot of L's over this last trip, I've seen a lot of good success stories. I have a stat for you guys. In the month of November, Keegan Murray averaged 8 points, shot 33.9% from the field and 27% from 3. all the games in December, that's skyrocketed every one of them from 17 points, 54.9 from the field, and 51.4 from the three. So it's just the confidence, just getting the rhythm. He's a rookie. It's got to be a roller coaster for him. At some point, he's got to hit a rookie wall. You don't play as many games in high school or college, matter of fact. So it's all going to catch up to him. But a lot of good things from this winning trip, this road trip, like I said, against the Cavs, for us to finish the game on 10 straight stops. To watch that was literally insane. They didn't score for 10 straight possessions, and it was nuts. And for the for the Kings to go on a 19-0 run to end the game is insane. And I just have to go out there and say the defensive player of the game chain is legit, man. I might have to add me a little pennant on my chain. That shit is nice. That shit is nice. But and like Wes said in the comments, how's Malik Monk playing? He's been playing all right. The bench has definitely dropped off. Just the consistent bench production, bringing Jaevon from the bench lineup to the starting lineup definitely affected it. That's one less person we have coming off the bench, and then now we have to play Matthew Dellavedova, and we all know the last time he was relevant. So, oh boy, is right
when he was getting IVs,
the Steph Curry stopper.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's way back when, but I mean. We got a lot to improve on. We've been such a good team defensively this year, and that Knick game was insane. I love RJ Barrett. I'm a big Duke guy. He's only averaging 18 points and 5 rebounds, and he gave us 27 points, 9 boards, 6 assists. So it just him and Randall went off, and it was just a lot for us. With the Bucks, you can't really do anything with Giannis. We competed, but you can't let Jrue Holiday go for 31. No way in hell we're going to win a game when we have Giannis going crazy, shooting jump shots, and Jrue Holiday is being right there scoring 31. So a lot of good things to take from it. You can't win them all. We're still really good in the playoff standings. So if the season were to end today, we'd still be in the playoffs, not the play-in. So that's, as a Kings fan, for me to take all these L on the chest and look at the rankings, and we're still in the playoff contention. There's nothing but good days ahead of us. It's just a bump in the road.
Totty, if I can recall, you had the Kings losing to the Bucks and the Cavs, but then you had them beating the Knicks and beating the 76ers. And so they did beat the Cavs. That was, they beat the Cavs, who we thought that they were going to end up losing to.
2 times.
Totty, you and I, we were right on the same wavelength last week. We both had them losing to the Bucks and the Cavs, but then beating the Knicks and the Sixers, and we were wrong about both of those potential wins that we thought. Just real quick, I don't know, for the live stream viewers, you might have seen me look to my right and get big old eyes and fade back a little bit. In unrelated news in the baseball world, Carlos Correa just agreed to a 13-year deal worth $350 million with the San Francisco Giants. Congratulations, Giants fans. You thought that you got Aaron Judge, and you had to settle for the cheater in Carlos Correa. Enjoy him. We don't really talk about baseball too much on this podcast, so let's just keep it moving. But anyways, Jaevon, I want to get your
money that.
Yeah, and Manny says, I need to teach my kids baseball. I still don't understand why Kyler Murray chose football over baseball when he could be making way more money playing baseball. But I digress. Jaevon, kind of the same question as I asked Kevin, but mainly in regard to the last 2 games, because the last 2 games haven't looked good. So what has gone wrong for the Kings in the last 2 games? Specifically against the Knicks, but also tonight against the Sixers.
You guys probably keep wondering why I'm screaming just randomly. Celtics and Lakers went to overtime. I got the game on in the background. Jason Tatum just hit a step back jumper, and they're up 5 in OT. So just letting you guys know, by the way. So, but back to the Kings.
What went wrong?
Yeah, it's just so going on this road trip, I was kind of a little pessimistic. I was a little bit skeptical on that 2-2, just based off of the fact that I thought that they would have been able to beat a Philadelphia, but then James Harden ends up coming back, and this is the game this past night tonight, and Joel just came off of a 54-point game, so it was a little bit tough. And then obviously De'Aaron Fox goes down, and he was kind of like a game time decision. competed in shoot around earlier this morning, so didn't know if he was going to be able to go, and he was able to go. And you would have thought, okay, there's no minutes restriction, theme team, like it should be easy, right? Nope, they get slaughtered. Joel goes for 37. James Harden has 21 points, 15 assists, and then you saw a little bit from Tobias Harris, who had 21 points as well to add to that. Just based off of the, going back to the Cleveland game, the only game that they actually won, you saw a lot from a Davion Mitchell, from a Sabonis. Malik Monk, I thought, played well, and then they ended the game on, what was it, a 19-0 run, Kevin?
Yeah, 19-0 run.
19-0 run. And, I saw a lot from Darius Garland, because I thought that the reason why I picked the Cavs to win, because I would have thought that Donovan Mitchell would have been playing, but he was ruled out with a leg injury. Maybe it was something wrong with the squad. I thought that, the Cavs were pretty much controlling that entire game, I believe. And then kind of towards the fourth quarter, the Kings just go on a run. And, that's just basketball, period. I think it's just a game full of runs. And I think the team that has the most of those particular runs usually comes out on top. And you just want to see the Kings get healthy all the way. And I think tonight it kind of showed that De'Aaron probably wasn't himself, just trying to get back to the loop after missing those 2 games. But I think that the Kings, it's going to get a little tough for them, I think, going to Toronto on a back-to-back, going to a whole nother country on a back-to-back is crazy. And Toronto is probably one of the better teams at home. So I don't know if they bounce back tomorrow, but I think within the incoming games, they should be able to get back on track. They need to find just, a state, like, they can't be losing. They can't go on 3-game lose streaks, 4-game losing streaks. They're kind of reverting back to, I'm seeing flashes of the old Kings when they lose. They can't lose 5.
The Kings, Kangz.
They can't lose 5-6 straight games if they want to become a playoff team. They have to lose one here, maybe lose one there. They got to go on win streaks. They got to win 3 in a row. They won 7 in a row. You got to see a couple of those throughout the season. And I think we're seeing a little bit of inconsistencies. That may be due to injury, but at the same time, the top 5 teams, which the Kings are in standings, those teams figure out ways how to win. Like the New Orleans Pelicans have been without Brandon Ingram for however many games, but they're still the number 1 team in the Western Conference currently. So I think the Kings have to find some type of consistency, even if it does mean without some of their key players.
So then that leads me into our next question of the Kings' next 3 games, because as you mentioned, Totty, the Kings do play tomorrow night on the road in a back-to-back against the Toronto Raptors in Canada. But then the Kings have 2 extremely winnable games. Like, if you want to make the playoffs, these are those gotta-have-it games, as the Kings play at the Detroit Pistons on Friday night, and then they play at home against the Charlotte Hornets next Monday night. And so, Kevin, I want to get your prediction for the Kings' next 3 games. Are we feeling another undefeated week? And when I say another, I just mean in terms of your prediction.
I'm going to go 2-1. Like Toddy mentioned, Toronto's probably one of the best teams at home, and that atmosphere is insane. Just to say that you have Drake and his son sidelines at the games. Drake's giving his jackets to the reporters, so that intensity and the environment over there is going to be really wild. But Friday, we're going to hang the Pistons. We hate the Pistons over here. Jaden Ivey, he's going to regret saying all that shit that he said. He didn't want to come to Sacramento, and now he's at the bottom of the bottom. So we're going to drag the Pistons. No Cade Cunningham. We're going to drag, D-R-A-G. We're going to drag them up and down the court. You heard it here first, and I believe we should do the same thing with the Hornets. Last time we played the Hornets, De'Aaron went down, and we saw a big game out of Davion Mitchell, Malik Monk. So now that we're going to have, knocking on wood, hoping De'Aaron gets back into shape and stays healthy, I think we're going to roll through them as well. So I wouldn't be surprised to go 3-0, but that I'm guaranteeing 2-1.
Oh, he just pulled out the Charles Barkley guarantee. Okay, so Jaevon, how about you?
Yeah, I think the Kings go 2-1 just based off of the back-to-back, playing against Joel, playing against in Philly, and then having to go to Toronto on the road. and Toronto's one of the best teams in the NBA at home. So I think that they lose there, but I do think that they get wins against the Detroit Pistons and the Charlotte Hornets. So 2-1 is what they'll do the next week.
You know, I really want to buck the trend, and I don't want to make it unanimous. And I want to say that the Kings are going to beat Toronto, but, like, not only are they playing a back-to-back, and then they're going to another country, and then they're playing one of the best home teams in the NBA, as the Raptors are 10-3 on their home floor. They're 3-11 on the road. So the Raptors are right there around 500 at 13-14. But it's a lot to do with their away record and definitely not their home record, because their home record, they hold down home court. They're 10-3. So I'm going to stick with you guys. I think that the Kings go 2-1 over this next week. Likely a loss tomorrow. It's a back-to-back. You're traveling to another country. All those things with, I mean, it's not like they're going to like Saudi Arabia or anything, but like you got to deal with like customs and like getting through the border and all that. I've never been out of the country, so I don't actually know what that process is like.
Pretty sure Kevin has.
Oh yeah, yeah. So Kev, is it like a complicated process, like trying to get through customs?
Definitely, it's really difficult on the way back because they got to check everything, make sure you're not bringing nothing back, and going through that huge thing. And you know, it's a huge process to say the least.
Yeah, they don't want us bringing back too much syrup, I guess. Anyways, maple syrup, that is. Anyways, guys, our guy Manny, he asked a really good question in the YouTube comments. He says, will the Kings break the playoff streak this year? But before we get to that, I have a question that I want to ask, because Totty, you kept talking about how the Kings, I know that they were a top 5 seed. I don't know how. I haven't looked at the standings in the last couple hours to see like where things fluctuated. So right now, the Kings in the Western Conference are currently 7th. Okay, so yeah, they're right below that play-in line. So right now, the Kings are in the play-in tournament, but for the last couple of weeks, the Kings have been hovering above the play-in tournament. So the question that I have before we get to Manny's question is, will the Kings finish as a top 6 seed in the West? Jaevon, I'm going to throw that question to you first. I'm not asking, is it a possibility? I'm basically asking point blank, yes or no. Will the Kings finish as a top 6 seed? Because I got the notepad. I'm going to jot it down, and then we're going to talk about this when we get later in the season.
Well, let's just look at the standings here. I'm just looking at the top teams. You got Pelicans. Are they better than the Pelicans? No. Are they better than the Grizzlies? Maybe on some nights. The Nuggets? No. I don't think you guys are better than the Suns. Clippers? No. I think you guys are better than the Jazz. And then you got teams like the Mavs, the Warriors, Timberwolves. I think you guys are better than the Timberwolves. I'll say no, that they won't be a top 6 seed. Okay. I do think that they get into the playoffs, so they probably will have to go the play-in route. I think you guys will probably be like a 7 seed, so it'll be like right outside of that 6th spot. So I still think the Kings will make the playoffs this year. I just don't believe that they'll be a top 6 seed, which means that they don't have to be play-in type, which means that they're automatically locked in. I think that they'll be like a 7 seed.
Okay, so Marcellus, he says, get this guy off the mic, so we're going to throw it to Kevin. Kevin, yes or no answer. Do the Kings finish as a top 6 seed in the West this year?
Hell yes. I think we do. I
got to get, hold on. H-E double hockey stick. Hell yeah.
You know, I think by the time the end of the year falls around, we'll be a top 10 defense, along with a top 5 to 7 offense. I think at the end of the season, we're going to make sure we spread ourselves apart from the other teams. You have teams like the Lakers, the Trailblazers, the Warriors who have been struggling, the Timberwolves, the Mavericks who are kind of just Luka-centric, the Jazz. I wouldn't be surprised if we got top 6. Top 5 is probably crazy, but that 6th spot is looking real comfortable, looking like the Sacramento Kings name on it. So I'm all here for it, baby. Kings top 6.
Okay, and so Kevin says hell yeah. Jaevon says no. I'm gonna stick to my roots. My roots is pessimism.
Pessimism.
I am naturally pessimistic when it comes to the Kings, and so I'm going to say no. I do think I'm right there with you, Jaevon, where I do think that they fall into that 7 to 10 range where they will be playing in the play-in tournament. But I'm gonna go with no. And so to answer your question,
gray area playoff experience.
Yeah, there you go. Gotta get the extra warm up.
Doesn't that they don't count it as a playoff game? So just think about it, like them in the play-in, it'll be like a playoff game for Sacramento. That crowd is going to be
if they win a play-in game, people clown the Timberwolves. They will clown them forever. We might get so lit, we might get swept in the first round, but we are going to fucking go nuts. We're hanging from city poles, light poles, everything, bro. Like the fucking beat.
That's kind of what I want to see is them
beat.
in a playing situation, and it'll feel like a playoff game for a lot of Kings fans because I haven't felt that since freaking however long. How many years has it been, Shaun? Like 16?
16 going
years.
On 17 at this point.
So for them, yeah. But for, Kings fans to experience a playoff-like game at Golden One, it'll be electric. So that's why I think the Kings will still get into the playoffs.
So, Manny, to answer your question, I do think that it's unanimous that we all do think that the Kings will break the playoff drought this year. It's just a matter of where they may be. So that just had a good question pop up in my head. So I want to ask it while it's on the top of my mind, because I don't think I've gotten either of you on record with this. So, Jaevon, I'm going to start with you because you said that they will not be in the top 6. Kevin, your prediction, what I'm about to say won't apply. So is the play-in tournament, is that enough to break the playoff drought? Does the playoff drought come to an end if the Kings make it to the play-in, but not the playoffs?
They got to win the play-in. Yeah, that's not.
They
got to win the play-in. That's not, because the play-in, they don't count it as playoff. They don't even count it as anything. It's just like
one extra game of your season.
It's like another game of your season, but it's not the regular season. Like I saw a stat, it was like Trae Young had like 50 something in the playing game. They were like,
it was Jason Tatum.
Yeah, and then JT, he went crazy in a playing game, and they weren't counting it for anything. So
his 50 piece just fell into an abyss. Okay, yeah. I'm glad that we're all on the same page, because I have seen some Kings fans say if the Kings make the play-in, that's it. The drought is over. No, you got me so fucked.
Playing is pretty dope. It's a good idea. It was a good idea.
Kevin, I just gotta fill you in with a little extra context here, is because when the play-in first started, this guy right here to my, oh my God, I had it right. No, I didn't. Oh my God, I'm still getting it. So the guy to my right, he was not a fan of the play-in tournament at all. He was just like, oh, that doesn't make sense. I mean, because I was like, and even after the play-in tournament happened, the first year of it, I was like, did you not just see that Lakers-Warriors game and how great it was? Like, that was amazing. And then the Grizzlies and Warriors.
The Hornets got blown out by like 40 in one of the games. So that's that's why I was kind of just like, you'll see a lot of that. But it's been pretty decent for the most part. But you got to see Steph Curry versus freaking Ja Morant in one of the playing games. So it doesn't get any better than that.
And the cool thing about that too is that ended up being a precursor to the playoff series that we got last year. And they started to build that rivalry a little bit just with a 1-game play-in, and then it ended up translating into a 7-game series. So, all right. So, Kevin, Totty, and I, we all have the Kings going 2-1 this week in their next 3 games until we all speak to you again. And Jaevon and I, we both do not think the Kings will finish as a top 6 seed. We'll have to get Garry on the record with that. But Kevin, let me get a stone cold hell yeah.
Hell yeah, baby. Number 6. Not 5, but 6. I'm here for 6.
Okay. I like it. All right, guys. So last topic before we wrap things up here on episode number 5 of Stats Over Politics. And let's get to the Pellies. We've been talking about the Pelicans here and there, but I want to get to the Pellies. We got the Pellies, and then we got some of our timely takes at the end with some NBA here. So the Pelicans, They were the 1 seed in the West. Are they still the 1 seed in the West after they got absolutely destroyed by the Jazz? Let's take a look. My phone is taking a minute to load. This is the fun part about recording a podcast that's live. Anyways, okay, so there it is. The Pelicans are still at the top of the West. They are currently tied with the Memphis Grizzlies. They are both 18-9. Isn't that crazy? The two teams that had the top 2 picks 3 years ago are now the 2 teams at the top of the West. So the Pelicans and the Grizzlies are at 18-9, tied for first in the West, and the Pelicans just had their 8-game winning streak snapped. So before we get into the Pelicans in general and what we've liked that we've seen from them this year, because even with Brandon Ingram out, and it just got announced he's going to be out for at least another week, the Pelicans are one of the best teams in the NBA, which is a statement I did not think I would say. So with that, you're going to get a lot of competition and teams not liking the fact that the Pelicans might be taking their spot. One of those teams is the Phoenix Suns, who find themselves at 16-12. Things got a little chippy. Zion did a 360 dunk, and then the Suns didn't like it. CJ McCollum said in his post-game presser, he said, if you don't like it, then get back on defense. Simple as that. So, Kevin, I want to get your thoughts on this budding rivalry that we're seeing between the Suns and the Pelicans. Is it good for the NBA?
Oh, it's great for the NBA just to see a team that no one thought they were going to be able to do anything from a team that is coming back from the finals to have this budding rivalry in the first round last year was insane. And to think that it went to six
games. D-Book missed a couple games.
Yeah, it went 6, and they didn't have the Pelicans didn't have Zion, and D-Book wasn't on the Suns. So to see this rivalry carry over into the regular season is insane. And I just want to throw a few stats in here, man. The Pelicans. Everyone says Duke don't produce no pros, but let me give you some numbers on this Zion Williamson effect. All right, in this 7-game win streak, versus the Thunder, 28 points, 8 boards, 8 assists, 3 blocks. Versus the Raptors, 33 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, 4 steals, 2 blocks. Versus the Spurs, he had 30 points, 15 rebounds, 8 assists, 2 blocks, another steal. Versus the Nuggets, 25 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists. Pistons, 29 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 block, 1 steal. Suns, 35, 7, 4, and 1. And then 2 days later, gave him another 35-piece, 8 boards, 3 assists, and 1 steal.
Back to back.
Zion Williamson is that guy. We're going to have a serious conversation if he's going to pull Giannis and Michael Jordan and go Defensive Player of the Year and MVP in a couple years.
So I just want to get to one of these YouTube comments real quick before we get to Totty with his thoughts.
Brother.
So the Blacktop. This is your brother. What's his name? I'm going to refer to him as the Blacktop until I actually know his name.
His name is Kyle. He's a diehard Raider fan, so take it easy on him.
Oh, this is the Raider fan we heard about earlier. Oh man, you missed a good segment. You gotta rewind to catch that. So should Point Zion be a thing, Kevin?
Yeah, man. You heard the numbers. He had two games in that 7-game winning streak with 8 assists, and the rest of the games he had over 4. So it's going to show that playmaking he showed at Duke wasn't a bluff.
Well, Wes wants you to know that nobody has ever
That's
said
what
that.
I'm saying, bro.
Dude, there's been plenty of dudes that say Duke puts out bust. Yes, you have the Jason Tatums, you have the Kyries, but there's a lot of guys that came out of there that didn't do anything.
Marvin Bagley.
We have a winner.
Sheldon Williams.
Trayvon Duvall.
Jaleel
Okafor. Bro, the name of Duke guys that have been successful.
Jaleel Okafor as a bust.
Oh,
I knew Jaleel Okafor was going to be a bust. I called that one. All right. So, Toddy, I just want to get your thoughts on this budding rivalry that the Pelicans and Suns have.
Man, Zion has been playing out of his mind. We already saw what he was capable of at Duke. Obviously, he was just super duper famous, just going into Duke, the crazy dunks, the exploding shoes, it's kind of just like it was a where were you moment when Zion Williamson exploded through a shoe, kind of like you kind of remember all this stuff. And then, he ends up getting hurt and the whole world's talking about it. Should he sit out? Should he do this? This is how polarizing Zion was coming out of college. And, he finally gets there and then Zion gets hurt. And so we're kind of like, oh, Zion has played like X amount of games. I think he's played like it was like 80 games in like 3 or 4 year span.
Yeah, in 3 years.
It was kind of like John Morant's taking off. He's winning all these awards. He's going to the playoffs. He's doing this. He's doing that. And then people are always going back and saying, should there be a redraft between Zion and Ja? And just because we never knew what Zion would be, because we all knew Zion had to lose weight. Zion had to, get into shape. And he just had to be durable. He had to be healthy. Well, now we're kind of seeing why Zion was this coveted pick, how hyped he was coming out of college. And he's dropping 35. He's given the Suns back-to-back 35-point games. Kevin already went over the numbers with you. I think Zion Williams is an early MVP candidate right now. I wouldn't say he's the front runner right now because there's a guy in Boston by the name of Jason Tatum who has another Dookie who has something else to say about that. But I think Zion, I saw in the comments, point Zion it brings definitely a different element because you can get a guy like CJ McCollum off the ball. We kind of saw what CJ was able to do off the ball in Portland with the Damian Lillard, who was a primary ball handler. So I think when this team gets all the way healthy with a Brandon Ingram, a guy who's capable of scoring, I think he's an all-star. He was an all-star in previous years. I think this guy who averages 20, you just have a guy on the bench who averages like 23 points a game, and they're still the number one team in the Western Conference. I think when Brandon Ingram comes back, this team can be very scary in the Western Conference.
Yeah,
I think they're better. I think they're better than the Suns right now. Even healthy with the Devin Booker, I think that they're better than the Suns right now.
Well, the thing about the Suns is that the Suns peaked, in my opinion. Like the Suns,
they missed their window.
Exactly, they did.
Their window was last year.
It was pretty much that 2-year window. Like, okay, yeah, they lost to Giannis and the Bucks. Giannis was going for his first championship too, so you can't really knock Chris Paul. At least Chris Paul made it to the finals. at least he made it to the finals. The one quick thing that because you guys already hit on everything, all the main points, but the one thing I want to mention about the Pelicans and Zion Williamson is so I joined a dynasty basketball league last year. It's my cousin's league that he had me come into, and so I inherited a team, and on that team, one of my keepers was Zion Williamson, and I got offered LeBron James for Zion Williamson. But you got to keep in mind, this is a dynasty league, which means that you keep 3 players every single year. And so I had to do it because there is no way that I could turn down the greatest basketball player that has ever touched this earth. And so I traded Zion Williamson for LeBron James. And now, a couple years into it, it's not looking like a great decision because I love LeBron, still love LeBron, but LeBron's going to be in the league for like 3-4 more years while Zion is ripping the rim off of baskets for the next 10 to 15 years if he continues to stay in the shape that he is in and he continues to play the way that he is. So something I will never admit to that group chat of degenerates is that I regret making that trade because Zion Williamson is hey, Jaevon, Zion Williamson is a monster.
Yes,
Malik Monk, he's a great player. Zion Williamson is a monster.
Yeah.
That's an inside joke for those of you who tuned into Shaun and Bond.
By the way, the other guy that I mentioned in the MVP race, he had 44 tonight, by the way. The light-skinned guy. He had 44.
That wasn't part of the question.
Yeah, but just want to throw that out there.
That guy's pretty good. Okay, so right now, guys, the Pelicans, as I mentioned, are tied at the top of the West with the Grizzlies at 18-9. They currently are tied for the 1 seed. So similar question to what I asked about the Kings, but I want to know, will the Pelicans finish as a top 3 seed in the West? Kevin, I'm going to throw it to you first. Why or why not?
Yes, 100%. Willie Green has definitely has turned this whole team around. You can look at the years before Willie Green got there. There's been a lot of turmoil. And then, the real big breaking point for this franchise was that AD trade. It could either go up or down from here. Either these young guys can turn out to be something or they're just going to be shit. And Brandon Ingram has turned out to be one of those guys, and he's the only one that is still around. So he's just flourishing as a player. I definitely see them being a top 3 seed once they get healthy. And we haven't even mentioned C.J. McCollum. And this team is deep as shit. From the Trey Murphys to the Jose Alvarados to the Larry Nance, Herb Jones, Dyson Daniels. Like, this team is deep, and I definitely think that they can be a top 3 seed. Maybe not 1, but I think they can be 2 or 3. I just see the Warriors turning it around at some point.
All right, so Totty, same question to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this team probably finishes number 1 in the West because they're only going to get better. I already mentioned the reasons pretty much why. Brandon Ingram is a walking 23 points a game, and he hasn't even been playing. Zion Williamson has been averaging about 30 points in his last 3 games. You already have a C.J. McCollum, a veteran guy who is very shifty, can get you 20, 25 points a game. He's a guy that has playoff experience. He had 40 in the playoff game. I just think that this team is just built for success. It was kind of already building up to it. So they made the playoffs last year without Zion. The entire year, Zion barely played. And they get 2 games on the team who previously just went to the finals. So we kind of already showed flashes. And they're very scrappy. You kind of saw at the end of the game when, Cam Payne and, Chris Paul, they were kind of getting into it. And then we saw the old antics on Instagram when Brandon Ingram was talking about Cam Payne. He was like, Cam. He was talking about Willie.
Coach said, "You're not like that for real."
Yeah, he was like, "Bro, I know you for real. Like, come on, bro." So, you like to see that, and I see very similar to the Warriors Memphis rivalry. I see a lot of that with this Phoenix Suns team and this Pelicans team. So I'd love to see them go. To be honest, if they played in the 7-game series, I think it might go 6 games, but the other way, and the Pelicans would win in 6 games.
So to answer my own question, I'm gonna be the devil's advocate here because Gary's not here, and I'm gonna say no. I don't think that the Pelicans will finish as a top 3 seed because, kind of like you guys were mentioning, some of those other teams. Memphis, I think, will finish as a top 3 seed. Mm-hmm. Denver is always sneaky. The Clippers, if they actually
regular season, the Nuggets,
they do. And shout out to Mike Malone, still miss him, but very happy with Mike Brown now. And then the Clippers, it's like the Clippers definitely have the potential to be a top 3 seed if they actually let their 2 stars play more than half the season. If they don't play. Golden State, Kev, I know you mentioned earlier that you think Golden State, they're going to get back to what their form. And I do think Golden State is a contender to be in that top 3. So right there, that's 3 teams right there that I think, or 4 teams potentially that could be ahead of the Pelicans. So I'm just going to say no. I'm going to go with no. But real quick, I wrote this down on the notepad, and Toddy, let me just make sure that this is an accurate quote because I'm going to start to write down your guys' quotes so then we can expose these hot takes later on. You said Pelicans will finish number 1 in the West. Is that true?
Yes, sir.
All right, there you go. I can give it a check. It's been verified. All right. So we're gonna start to have some of these quotes to bring back. Yeah, boom or bust. We shall see. But I'm gonna say no. The Pelicans do not finish as a top 3 seed. Okay, guys. So it's been a fun episode, but it's not quite over yet. We got our timely takes to end things here in the NBA. And Kev, I'm going to throw it to you first. I just mentioned the team that only likes to play their stars half of the regular season. So what's your timely take on the Clippers?
I think the Clippers are getting back rolling. There's an interesting stat that they're 8-1 when Paul George and Kawhi start and finish a game. Start and finish. Yeah, I have to make sure I do finish in there. It's funny because that's what the stats said too, is they start and finish. The last 4 games, they're 3-1. You've seen Kawhi starting to get back in his rhythm. He's averaging 17, 8 and 5, and he's slowly getting back in rhythm. He hit that game winner against Charlotte, looking like vintage Kawhi, on the block, the mid-range assassin. He's just doing his thing, and it just goes to show that him taking all that time off might have played in their favor. That team has learned how to play without him, has learned how to win without him. And this leads to my next point of Paul George being that motherfucking guy.
It's Paul George's team.
Averaging 24 points, 6 boards, and 5 assists. He said before the season that he knows that when Kawhi's on the lineup, he has to take that secondary role. But I think it should be the other way around. You know, Kawhi's been out for a while, so it's going to take him a long time to get going. I think this is the PG-13 show, and then we bring Kawhi along a shotgun, and the rest of this team will fall in line. So I definitely think that they're going to start turning it around. Kawhi's getting back into it. Yeah, he's going to miss games here and there. That's just what he does. But I think it's going to play off for them in the long-term run, so he'll be nice and healthy for a playoff run. And just to take back a couple years ago when he got hurt in the Western Conference Finals, you know, you never know what could happen if he stays. So I think the Clippers are really about to take off.
So, Totty, you keep alluding to this team, the Boston Celtics, your Boston Celtics. I mean,
West Coast Boston fan.
I wish I had it. I wish I had it ready to go, but I saw a comment earlier. Oh man, I'm just gonna let it go. It is what it is. But I saw a comment from your cousin Marcellus where he questioned your Celtics fanhood, but we're gonna let it rock. So the Celtics, they beat the Lakers 122-118 tonight in overtime. And that guy that you were mentioning as an MVP candidate, you said he had 44 points. So tell me more.
Yeah, man, I just think this team is just on a warpath this year. You have a guy in Jason Tatum, an MVP candidate in Jason Tatum. You have a guy in Jaylen Brown who is an all-star, trying to creep and break through his way to become a future superstar. I think that, you know, with all of the allegations and everything that kind of has been going on with our former coach and for Malzula to come in and kind of just, you know, not even miss a beat, for us to be still the number one team in the Eastern Conference. I think they're the best team in the league. Ever since, you know, losing in the finals, it always hurts. But, you know, you get that experience and you never want to feel that feeling again. I think these guys are kind of just coming together. They added a guy in Malcolm Brogdon, who is another scoring option off the bench, who I think will finish a lot of these close games that we lost a lot of last year. And I think that'll be it'll be a difference. So
yeah, he loves the weed.
I don't think people are really realizing that Robert Williams is another guy who has been out this entire time. You know, reconstructing his knee when he had surgery this past offseason, and we'll get to see him, I think, within the incoming games. I think he should be coming back pretty soon. So I think this team's defensive efficiency will skyrocket when Robert Williams returns. And I think they'll just add on to another what this great team already is. So I think, you know, the way that Jason Tatum has been playing as of recently, I think that this team can achieve new heights, and the sky's the limit with this team, honestly. And I think that if they're able to get their heads on right and kind of just stay focused, I think those teams that kind of, you know, sleep in the weeds that a lot of people will refer to, the only team I'm really scared of in this whole entire league is Milwaukee. You got a guy in Giannis who I saw in the playoffs this last year, kind of just 40 here, 40 there, and he didn't even have Chris Middleton. So that's the only team that I'm really kind of afraid of. And obviously the Warriors, they beat us. So those are those two teams I'm kind of, you know, looking in my back rearview mirror, like these teams are still pretty good.
Kevin, anything you want to add on Totty Celtics?
Nah, man, I'll let them do their thing over there on the East Coast, man.
Yeah. All right, so our man Garry is out tonight, so I'm going to pick up his timely take, and I'm going to switch the team because I don't think I'm not sure who. I don't remember off the top of my head who he wanted to talk about. I want to talk about the Utah Jazz. Utah Jazz. Jaevon knows that I love the Utah Jazz, or I did in a past life at least when I thought that they would be the 1 seed a couple years ago. Nevertheless, so Lauri motherfucking Markkanen, the finisher. Let me put some respect on his name, because the last name Holko, it stems from Finland. And so my dad's side of the family comes from Finland. Are Finnish. Exactly. I am Finnish. When I say to someone, I'm Finnish, they're like, you're finished with what? And so like not many people know the origin of Finland. And Lauri Markkanen, he scored maybe like 30 points, and he became the highest scorer in Finnish basketball history for NBA players in his rookie year. And he has made a huge leap this year. So if you just compare his numbers from where he was last year with Cleveland, last year he was averaging 14.8 points per game. Now he's averaging 22.1 points per game. That's a huge jump of nearly 8 points. He's upped his field goal percentage by over 8 percentage points, going from 44.5 to 52.7. And then he has even added his rebounds, nearly 3 more per game, going from 5.7 to 8.6. And he's averaging almost 1 more assist per game. Lauri Markkanen, right now, in my opinion, is the most improved player in the NBA. And he has a legitimate shot to be an all-star this year if Utah can continue to hover above 500. Right now, Utah's at 16-14. Everyone thought that they were going to be the all-tank team, but all of those players who got shipped off to Utah in the Rudy Gobert trade, none of them want to tank. And so I just want to say I'm proud of Lauri Markkanen. He's putting on for the homeland, for Finland. And, man, I should have come prepared. I even have a Lauri Markkanen Finland jersey.
That's tough.
I should have rocked it. I would go get it, but we're running out of time. I'll save it for another week. But I just want to talk about Lauri Markkanen because, man, he has been putting on a show this year. And as a Finnish person, I'm really happy. I was thinking of how to formulate that. But anyways, guys, that's gonna pretty much do it. Do you guys have anything else you want to say before we get out of here?
Yeah, man. Props to Utah. I mean, you Colin Young, Bull Sexton, he's been playing well. He's been hurt the last couple of games. Jordan Clarkson, you're seeing a lot. He's kind of been stepping up to take. He's kind of becoming that closer that I'm seeing a lot in certain games. Jordan Clarkson's been playing very well. You're seeing guys like Malik Beasley knocking down corner threes. So, and they lost their coach too. So, yeah, nobody expected you to. If you would have told me Utah was going to be in playoff contention, I probably would have laughed at you before the season.
Yeah, I would have too. So anyways, guys, that's going to do it for episode number 5 of Stats Over Politics. We appreciate you all for tuning in. Our YouTube, check us out. We got all Shaun's past podcasts on there. We got all the episodes. Be sure to subscribe, rate, review on all the audio platforms. Find us on Apple, find us on Spotify, Google, all those things. As we said, everywhere. We are everywhere. And make sure to check us out. Make sure to check us out next week for episode number 6 of Stats Over Politics. We go live on YouTube and Twitter every single Tuesday night at 8:30 p.m. Pacific time. Make sure to tune in, check us out, be in the comments. We appreciate you all, and we'll catch you all next week.
Fly, let's fly.